is there will be arrangements to take you straight to Mina, because your requirement is not to stay there the entire night. Okay, so ladies will proceed towards Mina. Men will stay in Muzdalifah, have to stay in Muzdalifah until sunrise. But typically what will happen is after Fajr, we will start assembling as a group and start walking towards the border or boundaries of Mina, and we will only enter into Mina upon sunrise. Okay, but we will start making our way from Muzdalifah to Mina after Fajr Salat. Okay. Okay. Now it is the 10th day of Dhul Hijjah. Okay. It is Eid day. Everybody back home is getting ready to go for Eid Salat. Okay. Those who are blessed to be in Hajj now have 3 rituals they have to complete on Eid day. Okay. The first is Rami, which is stoning one of the shaitans on Eid day. Okay. So Rami has certain obligations. One is that you don't have to be, first of all, you don't have to be in the state of wudu. Okay. And on this day, you're only stoning one of the 3 pillars. Okay, there are 3 pillars. The third pillar is the only one that you're stoning on Eid day. Jamaratul Aqaba, which is the third one. Okay, and you'll find that even our Sunni brothers and sisters are only stoning the third one. So the first and second one will be empty. Nobody will be stoning those first 2 on the first day. When you arrive at the pillar, right, it's an elongated pillar now. It is no longer, the small pillars that perhaps our, parents, grandparents used to stone. It's an extended pillar. And they've done it, I guess for safety reasons. Because of the small pillar, people throwing stones from every direction, people were getting hurt. So you have to take 7 pebbles with you. People take an extra couple just in case as an insurance, right? You've picked your 70 pebbles, you take with you, let's say 7 or 10 pebbles. You have to make sure that each of your 7 pebbles strike the pillar, right? Now you got to be wondering, well, how, with thousands of people there throwing pebbles, how am I going to see mine strike? Very easy, actually. You'll actually see your pebble hit, okay? But it depends. If you decide to throw it from 50 feet, you will never see it, right? And you will see people throwing slippers. From the time they see the pillar, slippers are flying, right? But if this is, for example, if this is the wall, right, and I'm coming towards the wall, right? If I'm coming from this direction, best thing to do is walk around the crowd, come towards the end of the pillar, right? Everybody is shooting from here as soon as they see the pillar. But if you walk towards the end and you come towards the back, it's very quiet, very quiet. So you can actually come stand here, and sometimes you can even make your way to the middle because the crowds have dispersed. And once you get up front, it's very easy. You throw your 7 pebbles one at a time, and you see your 7 pebbles strike. You're certain that 7 pebbles struck, and you move on, right? Now, because it's an elongated pillar, the requirement is that you aim as best you can towards the middle section of the pillar, because that is where it's assumed to be the original pillar, okay? So you come towards the end, and you turn, and you throw your 7 pebbles, aiming towards the middle. Now, the requirement for Rami is to do it between sunrise and sunset. Ladies, however, because you will arrive on Eid day, you will arrive at Mina early, the volunteers will take you early. Okay, you're allowed to stone early on that day, just on that day. Okay, so ladies, children, maybe the elderly men who are sick and are not able to go during the day, and they'll be accompanying the ladies, they will be permitted to go earlier. But otherwise, the rest of us, on Eid day, sometime after we arrive at the tents, we will go and stone the Jamaratul Aqaba. Okay. This is what the pillar looks like, right? It's a long pillar like that, right? And if you go towards the end of the pillar, it's very quiet. Okay, it should be very doable. The second ritual for Eid day is the sacrifice of the animal, the qurbani. Okay. Now our group is unique in that we take those able-bodied men, for the qurbani ourselves. Unlike other groups where you just now go back and sit in the tent and you wait for the phone call to say, okay, your qurbani is done. Okay, that's what the ladies will be doing. Okay, you'll wait. Okay, once you're done with your Rami, then you'll wait until the phone call is received to say, okay, so and so has done your qurbani and your qurbani is done. For able-bodied men, our group actually takes the group to the slaughterhouse. Okay, and you have the ability to slaughter your own animal. Now, if you're not comfortable slaughtering the animal yourself, There are butchers there who will slaughter. You can just put your hand on his hand, you do your niyyah, and you slaughter. There's nothing like doing the ritual yourself. Nothing like it, to be honest, right? It's not the same as just sitting in the tent waiting for the phone call to arrive. Here you have a chance to do your own qurbani, right? So, inshallah, hopefully everybody is healthy enough and willing enough to do the qurbani itself. Okay, I'm not going to talk about how the distribution of the distribution of the meat needs to be looked after. All of those details, inshallah, you'll cover when you get to Makkah. Inshallah, there's also some requirements in terms of how sound the animal must be. But inshallah, those details can be covered when you are in Makkah. Inshallah. The third ritual then on Eid day is halaq, okay, or taqsir in the case of ladies. Now this is when your rami is done, your qurbani is done, and now on Eid day is when you will shave your head. Okay, this is the third and final ritual for Eid day. Okay, in the case of ladies, again, it's taqsir like you did during Umrah. But in the case of men, recommended to do halaq. Okay. Okay. So now these three rituals of Eid day are complete. When the three rituals of Eid day are complete, we said earlier there are 25 restrictions that are on one who is in the state of ihram. All of them get lifted except three after halaq. One, intimacy with one's spouse, still not lifted. Use of perfume, still not lifted. And hunting, still not lifted. These three restrictions remain. Okay, and we'll talk about it, they will gradually get lifted. But at this point in your Hajj, everything else gets lifted. So now you will notice that those two clothes of ihram which you've been wearing for a couple of days, you will take them off, they'll be dirty, you will go take a shower with unscented soap, and you will have your regular clothes. You wear regular clothes. Now you can wear shoes, because that restriction of feet covering your head, etc. You can wear a hat to protect yourself from the sun because now you've shaved your head. All of this is okay, except these three restrictions. So people will be back to regular clothes, at this point in Hajj. Now, there are some additional requirements to go back to Makkah, to perform another tawaf, 2 rakat namaz, and sa'i, Now, there are various times that you can go back and do this. You can do this on Eid, the night after Eid, which is the 11th night of the Hijjah, or you can do it during the 11th day, or 12th night. The group has a recommendation. We generally take Hujjaj on the 12th night of the Hijjah. It gives people a chance to rest for an entire day because it's been a tough 2 days, But there are others who are eager to go and get their tawaf and sa'i done. And by all means, if you are up to it and want to go and get your tawaf and sa'i done, there will be small groups, splinter groups that will go. As a group, we have a recommendation generally, and I'm not sure what it will be this year, but mostly it is that we take the group on the 12th night of the Hijjah, and that's probably what they'll do again this year as well. So when you arrive there, whenever it is that you choose to go, you do your tawaf, exactly like you did for Umrah, But now you're in regular clothes, right? Because after Eid day, your ihram clothes are off. You're in regular clothes, right? Ladies generally in white because of the heat. You do your tawaf 7 times around the Kaaba, same rules. You come, you recite your 2 rakat salat, same rules. And then you go do your sa'i, same rules, Going between Safa and Marwa. When you have completed these 3 rituals, use of perfume is now permitted. Upon completion of sa'i, you are able to now use perfume. Let's skip through some of these because, so once you've completed these 3 rituals, you can use perfume. Then you have another tawaf and 2 rakat namaz that you have to perform, and that is called Tawafun Nisa. Tawafun Nisa and 2 rakat salat that follows. You don't have to perform all of this together. As long as you perform Tawaf of Hajj, 2 rakat namaz and sa'i, that's 1 unit, right? You have to perform those together, right? A little bit of a gap is okay. Tawafun Nisa you can delay for another 2 days. No problem. You can come back and do it. If you're staying in Makkah for another 10 days, you can come back and do your Tawafun Nisa even much later. No problem. There's no requirement that it must be completed right there and then. But it must be completed because it is part of Hajj. Upon completion of Tawaf al-Nisa and the 2 rakat salat, now the restriction of intimacy with one's spouse is lifted. Okay? So if you choose to delay the Tawaf al-Nisa, that's perfectly fine. Okay? But that restriction remains until Tawaf is completed. Okay? Tawaf and the Salat of Tawaf. Now, for those of you who are performing Hajj for the first time, you have to perform Tawaf al-Nisa. If you're performing Hajj, even let's say for the Thawab of Marhumin, for example, your grandparents, because if you're in a situation like that, you still have to perform Tawaf al-Nisa because the restriction is on you, right? Even though you may be performing it for your deceased grandfather, right? It doesn't matter. The restriction is not on him. Restriction is on you. Therefore, Tawaf al-Nisa is mandatory. You cannot leave Makkah without having completed Tawaf of Nisa and the 2 rakat salat. Otherwise, the restriction that we've talked about remains. Okay. Then there are a couple of other obligations. Running out of time. A couple of other obligations I want to touch on. One is called Wuquf at Mina, also called Mabit. Okay. On the 11th and the 12th nights of Dhul Hijjah, we are required to spend at least half the night in Mina. Either first half of the night or second half of the night on both nights, on the 11th of Dhul Hijjah and the 12th of Dhul Hijjah. So when you add this sort of complexity into this equation, now it limits the number of options that you have in terms of when you can go to Makkah to go do your Tawaf, because you have to come back in time to spend at least half the night in Mina. Okay? And that is the reason why the recommendation from the group is that they spend the entire 11th night in Mina, 11th day in Mina, the first half of the 12th night in Mina, and then they leave after midnight. So they have completed that obligation. Okay, that is the recommendation. But other people do it differently. Okay, and that's perfectly fine. Okay. Also, on the 11th and the 12th days of Dhul Hijjah, on both days, it is recommended, or not recommended, it is required to stone each of the 3 pillars with 7 pebbles each. So on the first day, on Eid day, we only stoned the 3rd pillar with 7 pebbles. On the next 2 days, 11th of Dhul Hijjah, 12th of Dhul Hijjah, on both days, sometime between sunrise and sunset, right? You stone each of the 3 pillars with 7 pebbles each. And again, the rules are the same. You have to observe your 7 pillar strike, you aim for the middle, you go towards the end, and it's very easy to do, but you do them in sequence, right? The first, then the second, then the third, and you can't do them out of sequence because they will not let you go back and forth in that area, right? Because they're controlling traffic, flow of the crowds, because it's very difficult otherwise to manage people going in every direction, okay? And once you have performed your Rami on those 2 days and you have performed the obligation of staying half of the nights, the rituals of Hajj are complete. The only restriction that remained was hunting, and that automatically gets lifted on the 13th of Dhul Hijjah at Dhuhr time, right? So, 13 rituals. We'll recap. We'll open up the floor for questions in a moment. We'll recap. 13 rituals of Hajj Tamattu. 1. The wearing of Ihram in Masjid al-Haram. 2. The Wuquf at Arafah on the 9th day or 9th afternoon of Dhul Hijjah. Wuquf at Muzdalifah or Mash'ar al-Haram on the 10th night of Dhul Hijjah. On the day of Eid, 3 restrictions or 3 requirements. Rami, stoning one of the shaitans on Eid day, the 3rd one. Qurbani, which is a slaughtering of the animal. And Halaq or Taqsir, depending on ladies, of the shaving of the head on Eid day, right? Then we have the following 5 rituals. Tawaf, the Salat of Tawaf, and Sa'i, right, of Hajj, performed at some point over the next couple of days. Then the Tawaf of Nisa, and the 2 rakat Salat of Tawaf of Nisa. And then spending half the night in Mina on the 11th and the 12th night of Dhul Hijjah. And finally, performing Rami, which is stoning each of the 3 Jamarat on both the 11th day and the 12th day of Dhul Hijjah. Okay? Okay, I want to just, before I open up the floor for questions, just a couple of small details, not Hajj related, but related to the journey, okay? There are time differences between us and obviously where we're traveling to. I'm not sure how we're traveling or how the group is traveling from here to Medina this year. But if, for example, you're traveling via Turkish, I'm not sure what. Frankfurt, George. Okay, so you're going to Frankfurt. So you're traveling in the direction. So you'll have to just look at. There are websites that tell you which direction Qibla is in, depending on the flight path of the airline. But generally, for example, if you're flying from Toronto to Istanbul, you're flying in the direction of Qibla. Okay, so you can pray in that direction, but do pray, because salat timing is not based on your origin or your destination. It is based on salat timing in the air. So whatever time it is Fajr in the air is when you pray Fajr. Okay, so there are websites that will tell you exactly what time Fajr is based on timing. Make sure you do pray. Okay, and you'll have, mashallah, a large group of Hajjaj going together. All of you can wake one another up and you can pray your salat. On the way back, it's a little bit of a challenge because now Qibla is in the opposite direction, right? So you see if they can allow you to pray, and sometimes they'll allow you to pray. Otherwise, the requirement is that you at least do your takbiratul ihram in the direction of Qibla, and then you continue praying in the opposite direction if you have to. But don't make your salat qaza, right? Pray in the airline, on the airplane, so that you don't have a situation where salat is qada. We'll ask questions at the end. Yeah, if you're going to arrive at your destination and it is still going to be salat time, you can pray when you arrive there, no problem. But otherwise, if salat is going to become qada while you're in the air, do pray while you're in the air. Okay, we've talked about this. In Makkah and Medina, you will be in both cities for less than 10 days. Okay, but whenever you are traveled to a place where you are there for 10 days, that becomes like a watan, you are able to pray full. Makkah and Medina are considered to be spiritual watans, and therefore you are permitted. If you wish to, you can pray full. Okay? And you'll find everybody praying full in Haram, whether it's in Medina or Makkah. If you pray in the hotel, which we don't recommend you do because Haram is so close, you can still pray full. But most people will pray full, in Makkah and Medina because you have the option of praying full. Okay, and there is lots of thawab for every rakat that you pray in Haram, right? So you might as well pray full. Why would you want to pray qasr? Okay. Congregational prayers. For those who are muqalladeen of Sayyid Sistani, right? Agha Sistani does not consider the Imam of Jama'ah in Haramain to be a valid Imam. And therefore, while we stand shoulder to shoulder to the mu'mineen who are praying, we pray with the niyyah of furada. Okay, for the muqalladeen of Sayyid Sistani. For the muqalladeen of Agha Khamenei, he allows that you can pray with Jama'ah, niyyah of Jama'ah, behind the Imams of the Haramain. Okay, now you'll also find that in the second surah that the Imam of Jama'ah recites there, he doesn't recite a surah. He recites a passage of the Quran, right? Sometimes the passage is familiar to you. Sometimes the passage is not familiar to you, right? So what do we do? Because he recites a long passage, and we don't know surahs that are that long, okay? So you have a few options. You recite your second surah, okay? You finish your second surah, let's say, you recited whichever surah it is. Now you're listening to him. So you have options. You either can listen to him, and listen to the verses of the Quran being recited, and you stay quiet, no problem. If it is a surah that is familiar to you, sometimes he recites Yasin, right? Then you just follow along. You can do that. And the third option is that you can do dhikr while he's reciting surah. So you can say Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, and so on and so forth. Whichever dhikr you choose to recite. You have three options, okay, to recite. Timing for salat. We have a little bit of a difference with Maghrib timing between us and the Ahl Sunnah brothers and sisters, okay? They believe that Maghrib time sets in at sunset. We believe that when the redness disappears on the eastern horizon is when the time for Maghrib sets in. So that's approximately a 15-minute wait, okay? So in the early days, when you arrive in Makkah or in Medina, you will find that there's enough of a gap. The adhan is given of Maghrib, and then they wait, they recite their nafilah prayers, their mustahabbat, etc. You look at the clock. If 15 minutes elapse, and then the Imam stands up for Maghrib Salat, you pray Maghrib, and that's fine. If he stands up in 5 minutes, right? And he will in Makkah. When you get closer to Hajj days, because of people wanting to do Tawaf, they don't give a lot of time. They very quickly begin their Maghrib Salat, and there's not enough time. In that case, if you're in the Haram, you pray, let's say, a Qada prayers, and you have to pray your Maghrib again, okay? Because as far as we're concerned, it's not time for Maghrib as yet, okay? Until 15 minutes have elapsed. Sajda, okay? Sajda is permitted on, marble, for example, or a turba, or something that is not edible, or something that has grown from the ground. These are the requirements. In Medina, if you get to Haram in time, there is still plenty of space where you can find marble floor, and you can do sajda on the marble floor, okay? But you need to get there with enough time. Otherwise, you get stuck with a place where there's carpet. Now, there'll also be a prayer mat that is given to everybody, and there'll be a place where you could do your sajda on the straw on the prayer mat. So that's another option. In Makkah, however, there is plenty of marble, right? Most of the floor, Haram, is marble floor, so there should be no issue with being able to perform sajda on the floor in the Haram in Makkah. Finally, final slide. You will find every day, at every time, at every salat time, there will be announcement. There's now namaz mayyat, right? Lots of people die. Lots of people die every day. Salat, Fajr time, you will find namaz mayyat. Dhuhr time, Asr time, Maghrib time, Isha time, all day long. Okay? Now, if you're in Haram, praying your salat, and everybody is standing for namaz mayyat, out of respect, you stand up for namaz mayyat, right? Now, there's a shortened form of namaz mayyat that is allowed. This is actually the bare minimum of Salat al-Mayyat. The dhikr, for example, that our ulama recite is mustahab. We don't have to recite that long dhikr between each of the takbirat. There are 5 takbirs in Salat al-Mayyat. After the first takbir, you just say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Okay, basically the 2 phrases of the kalima. Then you do your second takbir. Then you recite salawat, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Then you do your third takbir, and now you pray for forgiveness of all mu'mineen. Allahumma ghfir lil mu'minina wal mu'minat. Okay, you do your fourth takbir, and you say Allahumma ghfir li hadhil mayyat. Okay, now you pray for the forgiveness of the mayyat in question, and you do your 5th takbir. Very straightforward. Okay, again, this will be on the slides. It's all of us know these du'as. It's very straightforward. Okay, but out of respect, you stand up and you join them in Salat al-Mayyat. Okay, I was given till 11:45. It's 11:45. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to answer questions, but whether you want to answer questions now or maybe a little later, whatever you prefer.
All right, can we have a loud salawat for Akil? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. This was not an easy task, so maybe one more loud salawat, please. So at this time, Akil normally hands us a quiz paper to see how you guys have heard, listened, and digested. So are we ready for the quiz? All right, so that means there are no questions. No, anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask. We have a mic for the ladies as well. You just have to on it.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. If somehow ghusl become wajib during the ihram,
Yes.
so what we do?
Yeah. So if for some reason ghusl becomes wajib on you during while you're in the state of ihram, then you have to perform ghusl. First of all, you'd have to make sure that the najasat on your ihram is removed, and then you have to perform ghusl and get into a state where you're tahir again. So it's for example, if it happens in Arafat, right, or Muzdalifah, right, when you go to the washroom, not very convenient, but it is possible to use the pipes there that are in the washroom to do ghusl. Okay, there have been occasions where I know I've been told that I have to do ghusl, so it's doable. Okay, awkward but doable.
And we can replace the ihram.
Yes, yeah. So ihram, I will say this: that look, for men, if we're supposed to wear 2 pieces of unstitched cloth. Generally, what we do is between 2 people, you buy 2 sets of ihram. Okay, so now you have 6 pieces between 2 people. You keep 2 that you're wearing, and you keep 1 spare, and your friend will keep the other 1 spare. So all of you will have 3 pieces, right? You wear 2, and 1 you keep spare in your bag, so that in case your clothes become najis, for example, it could be blood, for example, you could hurt yourself, and that way at least you can replace it, right? So that's what we do. We generally carry an extra piece as backup. Okay.
Any more questions on the ladies? You can just on the mic. Thank you.
I was just going to ask, are nose rings allowed?
Yeah, no, nose rings. Yeah, nose rings allowed if that's something that you have on a regular basis, right? I mean, it's not something that you would do just to get into the state of ihram, but if you something that is anything that you wear, regular jewelry that you wear back home would be fine.
Okay. And I know you were talking about like staying half the night in Mina. Is there like back and forth between Makkah and Makkah and Mina? Would it be like provided by
So yeah, the requirement is to stay half the night, half the 11th night and the 12th night in Mina, right? Generally, based on where our tents are located, we don't go back and forth, right? We spend those 2 days, pretty much 2 days in Mina, okay? Those who wish to go back to Makkah earlier to perform their tawaf or whatever it is, there's a recommendation that you carry a little bit of money with you to Mina in case you want to take a taxi to Makkah. You can do that, okay? But you're on your own. As a group, it's impossible for us to take people at various times of the day back to Makkah. So we have one designated time. On the 12th night of Dhul Hijjah, after midnight, when the obligation for staying the second night, half the night, is completed, then we have arranged buses and we take the entire group to Makkah. But those who wish to go earlier are on their own. On their own to go there and come back.
Okay. So how much money do you recommend?
So yeah, you'll cover that when you get there. They recommend 300 Saudi riyals to carry with you. Don't carry too much money with you because it's safer to have the money in the hotel than it is with you. So the 300 Saudi riyals is less than 100 US. Yes.
Please use the mic. Excuse me, sister.
Mic.
Because we have online viewers, so they need to hear. Thank you.
What if during Tawaf, if the feet get hurt or start bleeding a bit, then what happens?
Yeah. So if you get hurt during tawaf, let's say someone steps on your feet and you start bleeding, then you are obligated to come out, cleanse the najasat, clean your feet, and then come back and resume your tawaf. Again, remember the rule of 4, right? If your toes started bleeding, let's say before your 4th round is complete, then when you come out, you clean yourself, remove the najasat, you go back, you have to start afresh. If, however, you started bleeding after the 4th round was completed, then in that case, you clean yourself, go back, and you resume from where you left off.
So Akil, there's another question here. Is it okay to use baby powder on my flip-flops to avoid blisters while in ihram?
Baby powder, that's a question that I haven't heard before. I know there's a restriction for oil. I'd have to check. So maybe send me the contact. I'll check and I'll get back to you.
Okay.
Generally, any medication you cannot apply anything preventatively. Okay, powder I have to check. But anything that you apply preventatively is not permitted. Anything that you apply, let's say, because you have a medical condition. If, let's say, and it'll occur for men, okay? Because of the heat and the walking that you'll do in the state of ihram, right? Sometimes the thighs start chafing, okay? Because of the heat and the sweat and the friction. So, people take Vaseline, for example. You can't apply it in anticipation that you'll get a rash, okay? But if you have a rash now, okay, because of the heat and the sweat, right? And it's difficult for you to walk, then you can apply, okay? Because now you're applying it not preventatively, but because you have a medical reason to apply it. Okay, yes.
Okay, one more, and then we'll go back to the floor. I use my Apple Watch to inform me what time to pray. I don't consider it a jewelry, only a utility. Can I take this with me to Hajj, or are there any restrictions?
Yeah, no, there's no problem. If you're wearing a watch and you use that, because you want to tell the time, then there's no problem.
Do you have to have a will done before you go to Hajj?
So, a will, obviously not wajib to have a will before you go, but highly recommended, right? I mean, you're going, having left everything behind here, your family, your children perhaps, and you move on for this, enormous journey of Hajj. highly recommended that you have your will completed. Actually, you should have your will completed regardless of whether you're going for Hajj or not. But yeah, highly recommended that you have your will done if you haven't already done so.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions from the...
But so I said, just one more thing on the will, right? I mean, we're all Canadians. You recognize that if you don't have a will done, then you lose control over how your estate gets dispersed in the event of your passing away. And that's why I said you should have a will done regardless of whether you're going for Hajj or not. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
In Muzdalfa, you mentioned we have to collect pebbles. I'm just wondering, how many pebbles do you collect, and how do we carry those pebbles? I mean, do we
Yeah, yeah. 70 pebbles, 70 pebbles. There will be a pebble bag that will be given to everybody, so you'll deposit your pebbles. There's also a requirement on what the pebbles look like. You know, the ideal pebble, which are very difficult to find, but you know, you'll pick up 70 pebbles. On the first day, on either day, you use 7. On the 11th day, you use 21. 777. Yeah. On the 12th day, you use 21. So you actually are only using 49 pebbles. You have 21 left. Okay. Why do you have 21 left? Okay. Because there are certain rules that suggest that if certain things happen, then you have to spend the 13th day in Dhul Hijjah. If you spend the 13th day in Dhul Hijjah, you have to do another 777, 21. Okay. Which generally does not happen. Okay. To us. There are sort of odd rules that force you to stay the 13th day. Okay. But in most cases, it will not happen for us. So that's why when we go to stone on each day, you actually take more than 7 with you. You take maybe 10 for each jamarat. In case, for example, one pebble falls out of your hand, or you're not sure that one struck or not, you have an extra couple of pebbles. So everybody has 70. It's plenty. You only need 49.
Okay, thank you. Also, you mentioned our Maghrib is 15 minutes delayed from our
Ahl Sunnah brothers and
Ahl
sisters.
Sunnah
Yes.
brothers. For Zohar, can we pray with them?
Yes.
Or
But
Zohar is fine?
it's only the
Maghrib?
issue is only Maghrib time.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. If you just use the mic, just because, sure.
So, while it is our first Hajj itself, will we get the time or opportunity to perform Umrah or Hajj for others?
You will not be able to perform Hajj for someone else because Hajj is performed on those days, right? So once you've performed your Hajj, Hajj is complete. If you want to go back and perform Hajj for someone else, you know, you'll have to come back some other time. Umrah, however, I'm not really sure how many days you have after Hajj is completed. 3 days. In Ayat says 3 days. So you have plenty of time. Okay. However, remember one thing, that the requirement for Umrah is that you can only perform one Umrah for yourself in one Islamic month. Okay. So what does this mean? What this means is that because you have performed Umrah Tamattu in Dhul Hijjah, you cannot perform another Umrah for yourself after you complete your Hajj. However, after you've completed your Hajj, you can go ahead and perform an Umrah for multiple people, right? So let's say you want to do for your parents, grandparents, etc. All of them in one niyyah, you can go and perform your Umrah, okay? But it has to be after completion of your Hajj, okay? So Umrah Tamattu is completed, you'll have 6-7 days in between. You can't do it then because you're still in the middle of Hajj. Once you come back from Mina, okay, on the 12th of Dhul Hijjah, now you have a couple of days, you can perform your Umrah, okay? And there's a mosque not too far away called Masjid al-Tan'im that you can go and wear your ihram from, and you can then perform your Umrah. The Umrah, again, they'll cover the Masail. Those 5 rituals of Umrah Tamattu, the same, plus Tawaf al-Nisa and 2 rakat Salat. 7 rituals in Umrah Mufrada. Okay. There's a question from the sister here in the front. You just pass. Yes.
Just a question.
Ji.
We have to throw pebbles for 2 days for all 3 shaitan.
Yes.
It should be in order, or can we do the third one first and second?
No. All of these rituals need to be performed in sequence.
But
So-
for
so-
the 2 days, the
Ji.
first one, the second one, the third one.
Yeah, so when you enter into the area, you come to the first Jamarat, you stone that
sometime
one.
if it's crowded.
No, you'll not be able to come in every
Okay,
direction.
okay.
They force you to come in from one direction, right? The entire crowd is moving in one direction, okay? The problem is that if you choose to do one and then you forget the second one, you go to the third one, there are security guards preventing people from going backwards because otherwise there's chaos. They allow people to move only in one direction. You finish your Rami and then they expect you to move out of that area and move on, right? Because otherwise it's impossible to control the crowds. So if you are paying attention and you enter into that area where you're doing the rummy, you'll hit the first wall, then the second, then the third, and then you move on. But it has to be done in that sequence. Yes.
Tawaf an-Nisa, just a point of clarification. It's wajib even on children, right, that are doing Hajj? It's like...
Tawaf an-Nisa is wajib, period. Right? Regardless of whether it's a child or not. I mean, we had taken our children for Umrah a few years ago. Both, my daughter was already 9, but my son was probably 7. But Tawaf an-Nisa is wajib, right? Even for Umrah Tamattu. So regardless of age, Tawaf an-Nisa and the 2 rakat salat follows is wajib, yes.
During the tawaf, is not necessary to kiss the Hajar Aswad or just for ishara?
Yeah, so kissing the Hajar al-Aswad during Tawaf, impossible.
No, it's necessary?
No, not necessary at all. I mean, you symbolically, people will point towards the Hajar al-Aswad as, and the significance of that is that the Hajar al-Aswad will be witness. Okay. That you were there for Hajj, that you passed, that you were there for Umrah or Hajj, and that is the significance, symbolic significance of greeting the Hajar al-Aswad. Touching Hajar al-Aswad, kissing Hajar al-Aswad during Hajj is very difficult, okay, because the crowds, and people will do it. I mean, people will try at the risk of being injured, okay, because it's really, really difficult. But you don't have to. No, it's not a requirement. Pointing towards Hajar al-Aswad during Tawaf is not a requirement. On the 8th day of Dhul Hijjah, the Ahl Sunnah brothers and sisters leave for Mina before they go to Arafat. It is mustahab. Okay, for them they do, but for us it's mustahab. We don't go to Mina first. But on that day, the crowds thin as the day progresses. If there is a day where you can possibly try to touch Hajar al-Aswad, that may be the day. Okay, it's still busy, but the better day than any other day. Yes.
Yeah, you said that khums have to be paid before. So what if someone, and how it work, what's the percentage and how it work? Is it possible to pay later because of some commitments, or how can you highlight the khums?
Yeah, so I mean, depending on which center you go to, I would suggest that you speak to the alim at the center. However, khums is 20% on your savings. You have to pay it before you leave. That is a requirement. Okay, khums must be paid before you leave. So if that is a situation that you need to deal with, then whichever center you go to, there are various ulama in Toronto. Please do address it with one of the ulama. Okay. Yeah, at the back. No, it's the people online. That's why we want to just make sure the question is.
So wearing Hirz-e Jawad is allowed, right?
Yes. Yeah, as long as the Hirz Jawad that you're wearing is not a sense of beautification, right?
And do we need to carry the tarba or like the sajdaga with us or anything?
No, I mean, look, in the Saudis they don't like us using turba. However, there'll be a prayer mat, or maybe even the bag that you have might have a straw area. I think Inayat Bhai is just taking one out, so you can use that. There you go. So you see that blue bag. On the strap of the blue bag, you have the straw section there. You can use that to do your sajda on. And so most people will use that because it's easier. When you put turba down on the floor, it just attracts unnecessary attention. You can if you wish to. I mean, people do carry it with them, but sometimes it gets confiscated by them because they don't like it. Okay. Inshallah, do remember me in your du'as. I hope and pray that all of you have a safe journey. But more importantly, inshallah, we pray that the Hajj is worthy of acceptance, inshallah. That really is the ultimate objective. And inshallah, go safely, come back safely, inshallah, and do remember me in your du'as. Ahsantum.